Melissa Watson is a single mother, an educator, and a realtor, and now she wants to be the next United States Representative for the 7th Congressional District of South Carolina. I speak exclusively with Melissa for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Well, Melissa Watson, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I appreciate it greatly. I know that obviously you're heavily involved in education.
I am.
And I know that too, you're also a realtor.
I am. I have a real estate license. I serve part-time at California Dreaming.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I do a little bit of everything, which is interesting, right? Because today Molly Spearman closed schools for the rest of the year.
Right.
There are no sit-down restaurants.
Right.
So I always think about my friends in the server industry.
Sure.
Who that's all they have because they're really being impacted by this right now. And it's a lot going on. And it's I think about it all the time, like what are people doing, how people are surviving, are they getting their unemployment yet? And so many people still haven't gotten their first unemployment check. They still haven't gotten the $600 from the federal government. No PPP, although I'm thankful that the Senate passed a bill that's now on the way to the House. And people are having small businesses who, like all of the restaurants in Charleston, are having a hard time getting their small SBA loans. So it's a difficult time. But today is Earth Day, and then we do notice if we look around that the sky is a little clearer. So that's a silver lining in all of this.
In all of this. Now, obviously, you're running as a candidate for the 7th Congressional District.
Yep.
If Melissa Watson was in Congress right now, what would you be doing to help those people who need unemployment, need small business loans, and etc.?
I would be screaming from ear to ear. I know that they're doing a lot of meetings in Congress remotely, that a lot of the members of Congress have decided to stay quarantined in D.C., which is like Cory Booker, Kamala Harris. A lot of them are in D.C. quarantine, which is good. I'm thankful for. But we really this is why we need to elect average people who understand what it's like to have to go through this. We need more small business owners in DC. We need teachers in DC. We need people who understand politics at that level. And because when you have lobbyists, I used to lobby for the national national board of certified teachers. I used to do that. Do their Hill Day all the time. And what I learned when I was in D.C. in the summers lobbying for national board is that these companies, the Googles, the Apples, the AT&Ts, they have lobbyists in D.C. every single day, just mulling the halls, waiting for their opportunity to talk to congressmen, waiting for bills to come out to see what the markups are, and getting their interest in those bills. Full-time lobbyists who are there every day, talking to these congressmen, stopping by offices every single day. And average people don't have that. So one of the reasons I'm running is so average people can have their stories told, so people can understand what it's like to have to make a choice in healthcare, for example, between paying a mortgage and buying medicine, or having the government close your small business and then not being able to have that government support you while you're trying to do the right thing by your employees. Like these business owners, small business owners, business owners with less than 100 employees, they see their employees every single day. They know that they're struggling and they're trying to do everything that they can. And for a lot of employees, I talked to a small business owner the other day who was a contractor, and he was in fits because he was not going to be able to make payroll this week because his small business loan didn't come through, and he was first in line to do the PPP. He went the first day, and now he's not even going to be able to pay his payroll. His wife has gone out and gotten a job, putting her health at risk because she went and got a job in a grocery store to try to make ends meet for their families, while he's home trying to take care of their children, and they have a kid with special needs, and trying to homeschool and trying to run a business and trying to get financing for his company, and he's trying to basically juggle all this and avoid financial ruin. And Ruth Chris is walking away with millions and millions of dollars, and this guy probably could have gotten through with $75,000, and he can't get any right now. Right. So it's hard. It's hard hearing these stories over and over and over every single day.
I know obviously you're running for the 7th Congressional District.
Mm-hmm.
Why should people then vote for you?
Well, people should vote for me, one, because I understand their issues intimately. You cannot tell me how the current congressman can understand the plight of teachers. You can't tell me how he understands the plight of a server. He can't understand the plight of real estate agents. He's a tax attorney. He sat on the council, and I just don't see him making those connections. Because if he made those connections, right now he would be screaming in the halls of Congress. And when he sits on the Ways and Means Committee, that gives him. There are two most powerful committees in Congress: Ways and Means and Appropriations. That gives you so much leverage when any bill comes through the House. And I really feel like if he understood it, then he would introduce more legislation. He's only had 3 bills sponsored, 3, and the whole time he's been there. And none of that in legislation has done anything to help average Americans, business owners. Myrtle Beach, which before this I would go to Myrtle Beach a lot, but now I'm in Florence.
Oh yeah.
But I would be in Myrtle Beach 2-3 times a week. 90% of the businesses in Myrtle Beach are small businesses. Small businesses. You have a couple of large, but most of them are small businesses. And Myrtle Beach is closed. But Horry has one of the highest rates of COVID infections that there is. So, the mayor of Myrtle Beach is in a quandary right now, right? She really wants to open businesses, but she's also thinking about the health of the people of Horry County. So the beaches are remaining closed. Tourism is not there. That's how Horry County survives, is tourism. And so they're hurting, and I don't see their congressman doing enough to address that issue. And if I was there, I would make sure my office was open. I'd make sure that I'd be taking calls from my constituents, and I'd be there fighting for these small businesses to get these loans every single day. And I don't think our current congressman is doing that. He's not doing enough.
And that's Congressman Tom Rice, and I hope to get him on Quintin's Post Office to get his side of the story.
Yes.
But I know on your website you said that you want to restore common sense and middle class values in Congress.
Right.
What common sense would you use right now for issues going on in that district?
Well, we need economic development, right? That's the major issue. There are I talked to a retiree, he says, I do well. I do well, I'm retired, I'm okay. This is not affecting me. But every day I see people out here working, putting their lives at risk, to make ends meet for their family. These healthcare workers. I never thought in our country that we get to a point where we would lay off healthcare workers. And people are saying, with this COVID crisis, it's affecting everything. So, you go to the hospital, people aren't going to the hospital because they're afraid of COVID. So we have people out there with other medical conditions who aren't getting the necessary treatment that they need because they're afraid to go to the hospital, and they don't have health insurance. So that exacerbates the problem, because now you have nurses being laid off, which is one of the most highest, I don't want to call it high income, but it's a pretty honorable career. And people can support their families. Nurses, usually, and they were usually safe. Well, we know a lot of nurses are female. A lot of those nurses have kids at home. They're single, and they're being laid off, and they're having their pay reduced. So we've got to find a way. We need paid sick leave. We're the only industrialized country in the world that does not have a national paid sick leave policy. And if we would have had that gives people a little bit of time, even if it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that gives people a little bit of time to find or get their unemployment to start coming in, or to find other means. 2 or 3 weeks is a long time, but we don't have that. In my district, while the unemployment rate was low prior to this, the poverty rates are as high as 32%. So while people are working, they're not making enough to support their families. The average base salary there is like $9-10 an hour. which isn't $7.25, but try raising a family on $9 or $10 an hour. And so you find people working multiple jobs, which is why the unemployment rate is so low, to try to fill that gap. So economic development and higher wages have got to be number one for me in Congressional District 7.
And now I know that obviously you talked about a policy that should have been enacted. What other policies would you enact in that policy if you could?
I would, in Congressional District 7, I would ask for more Title I funding. In the lower part of the district, not necessarily Myrtle Beach, but people, you have a low home ownership rate. A lot of people rent. So therefore, you're not getting the money from property taxes. After flooding, my district has flooded 12 times in the last 3 years. So after the flooding have occurred, a lot of people have left those areas. And so there's not enough available housing. So businesses, there are not a lot of businesses in the area, so they're not getting the income that they would off of businesses. So therefore, the schools are left in the dearth, right? All the traditional ways, sales taxes. Well, you know, Florence makes a pretty decent amount on sales taxes, but Dillon, Marion, Marlboro, there aren't a lot of businesses where people go shop. So they're not making the money from Act 388 from sales taxes. So at the federal level, those are state issues. So at the federal level, all I could do is ask for an increase in Title I funding, which is going to help a lot of those poor school districts try to meet the gap until our state does a better job of funding education.
How much would you increase that by?
I think we need to increase. I don't want to give a number because numbers are leveraged, and I would like to use that leverage. But we need to significantly increase our Title I funding. We have not had a significant increase in Title I funding in years. I think the last time we've had an increase in Title I funding, Obama was president.
And I know obviously you talked about obviously the unemployment rate in the 7th Congressional District. What is that rate right now after this coronavirus?
I haven't looked it up because it's so like it's fluid, right?
Okay.
Because you have so many people who are they are being furloughed and qualifying for unemployment. And as soon as the businesses come back, then they will be able to go back to work. But unemployment there prior to this ranged between 3 and 6%. So right now, I don't know what it is, honestly, because it just changes week to week as people apply for unemployment and then don't aren't applying, or they've applied and they've not received funds, or they're so it's just so fluid with all the things going on.
And I know also you said that we currently have great businesses bringing in billions to our economy annually, but Melissa knows that there's still more work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
In Congress, Melissa will work across party lines, build coalitions, and help drive the economic development through the district, bringing in new companies and better opportunities for our middle-class families in neighborhoods really to drive.
Yeah.
What new companies would you bring in right now?
We have in the 7th Congressional District, we do have a new inland port. But the problem with the inland port, and we're thankful for any business investment, is that most of those jobs are truck drivers coming in,
Right.
taking containers in and out. So those truck drivers were already there. They already had those jobs, but a lot of that inland port money is not making its way to the local people, right? So if you're a truck driver, you don't have to go all the way to Charleston. You can go to Dillon, run loads in Dillon for the inland port and still make decent money, right? So if you're a local trucker, that helps you, right? If you're a local trucker driving in Dillon or Florence or Myrtle Beach, that helps you. But you already had a job. You see what I'm saying? So what I would do is I would like to, spend more money on true small business development. We've got to get away from allowing large corporations to hold us hostage. I don't know if you read the news, but after a 3-hour-long, tenuous debate in York County, they decided to literally give the Panthers the farm and allow them. So the Panthers got state investment. They got tax breaks from the state of South Carolina, and they also received tax breaks from York County. So the Panthers are moving their new headquarters, their training facilities to York County. And that's great, right? But who does it help? I mean, I can't remember the exact number, but millions and millions and millions of dollars from the tax revenue that they should have received, they've given back to the Panthers. Now, what if we made millions and millions of dollars investment into education? What if we made millions and millions of dollars investment into our workers, just like we did into the Panthers? Now, everybody will say it's a great thing. Everybody will benefit. It's going to trickle down, right? But what if we started to trickle up? What if we, gave an additional $2,000 to education for every student in South Carolina? And then those students were able to improve their reading scores, able to improve their scholarship opportunities, able to improve their SAT scores, and able to then go and start small businesses. We have so many people, and we have a brain drain where a lot of kids go through our college system and then leave the state because there's so many more opportunities in other areas. And so I don't want to give away the farm to the big corporations. They do well. They have their lobbyists in DC. They are just fine. But what I would like to do is have more investment into those small businesses and those startups where we know we get the most benefit, because if small businesses are here, small businesses are invested in our community. They send their kids to our schools. They're going to sponsor your local recreation teams. They're going to sponsor your travel ball teams and all of that. So small businesses invest in the community while large corporations take money out.
And what benefits would you give to the small business owners?
If we can give millions of dollars in tax breaks to the Panthers and Boeing and Volvo to lure them in, why can't we give the same tax incentives to small businesses? If you can do away with property taxes for the Panthers, why can't you offer those same benefits to small businesses? That's a state issue, but at the federal level, what we should do is we should put more money into the Small Business Association. But we got to get rid of the loopholes, right? Small businesses are often considered companies that have 500 employees or less, or make around $100 million. That doesn't seem too small to me. So every Walmart is considered a small business, even though it's a part of a larger conglomerate, right? Every McDonald's is considered a small business. So, we got to change those rules at the federal level to really invest in small business.
And let me turn to education. Wow, so windy out here. But you said obviously it takes a village to raise a child. Let's grow the village. Melissa, that is, believes the path to a rewarding career is through quality education. The strength of our educational system not only ensures our students are better prepared for the careers of tomorrow, but the quality of educational systems is a huge factor when it comes to businesses deciding where to invest. Mm-hmm. What's quality education right now?
To me, quality education looks like an investment in teachers, smaller class size, less money at the bureaucratic level. So one of the things I said to a state representative in a meeting last year after all of the protests, I went and met with a state representative, and they were talking about teacher raises. So I said to him, you give a 4% teacher raise for a new teacher at $40,000. A 4% raise is like $16,750, right? Got to go back and do the math. I'll pull out my phone. But you know who else gets that same 4% raise? The superintendents of schools. So the average superintendent of schools, school districts in South Carolina is $200,000. So you know what how much money they receive in a 4% raise? They're receiving like $16,000. So you think about that discrepancy, right? So $16.50 or so for a new teacher and $16,000 for a superintendent. So we have these policies. We say, we'll give everybody a 4% raise. I don't think a superintendent who makes $232,000 needs a new raise, right? But I do think that new teacher starting off at $35,000 or $30,000 who's working 2 jobs as a bartender does need a 4% raise, or maybe even more. And so this year I was excited when the state of South Carolina came back with a blanket $3,000 raise for everybody, right? It kind of evens it out a little bit. But we got it. I know now with all of this at-home school, I think people are starting to appreciate their teachers. I'm seeing a lot of posts saying I love my teacher. I don't see a lot of posts saying I love my superintendent of education, because they understand what those teachers are having to go through now. And so, you look at Finland, you look at models of schools that do well and perform well across the world. Finland. Look at what the Scandinavian countries do for education. Look at what Japan does for education. This is crazy. Go look at Saudi Arabia's education model, and then look at ours. We spend more money on education, but we are middle of the road in our standardized test scores. So we need to look at people who are doing a better job than we are. And one of the things that they do better is making sure that the money gets into the classroom and not at the top. In Charleston County, look at how many people in Charleston County at the district level who are not in the classroom or in the school that make over $150,000. And some of those people have retired and they're drawing a second salary. But now if you're a teacher and you retire and you decide to come back, you have to go through and be approved through a Terry system to be able to do that. But if you want to work downtown, the only person who has to approve that is the superintendent. So our policies are screwed. And I think we do need a little more federal oversight of how we're educating children. If you ran a business and you had 15 or so subsidiary companies, right? So you're McDonald's and you had 10 McDonald's that were failing. What are you going to do? Are you just going to say, oh, okay, we have 10 McDonald's that are failing. That's okay. They're costing us money, but we're not getting a good product. Or does your company go in and look at those failing businesses and make changes, or sometimes even close them, right? Well, in schools, that doesn't happen. We keep saying to the people who are not doing a good job, we'll just give you more money. You just keep doing the job. It's okay. And education is the only business where we do that, where we can consistently have failure and everybody's okay with it.
Let me turn to infrastructure, because obviously you said that you're improving, on your website it says this, improving our infrastructure is about more than just unsightly appearances and potholes. With tourism being our leading industry, it is crucial to our local economy that we continue to make South Carolina an appealing destination that is easy to navigate and appealing to visitors. And for those who, or all of us, call South Carolina home, the poor conditions of our highways and bridges, you say, pose challenges in our everyday lives. What are the challenges right now in the 7th Congressional District?
Let me start like this. I went to North Carolina last year for a Duke game. And I was like, it's Raleigh, there's Durham, there's Raleigh-Durham, right in the middle. There's Greensboro, there's Charlotte. So I often, sometimes, go to Charlotte. I used to take my kids to basketball games, see the Horn, whatever. And so I'm riding through North Carolina last year, and I'm like, man, these are some nice roads. I'm riding through Greenville. Man, these are some awesome roads, And then I remembered the former Secretary of Transportation was Anthony Fox, the former mayor of Charlotte.
Right.
And then you go and you're riding through District 7, which is a major thoroughfare because you have 95. And a trucker said to me at one of my town halls there that, the only place that 95 is 2 lanes is in South Carolina. And okay, my kids play travel ball, so I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's about, Michelin issued a statement not too long ago that if South Carolina didn't do something about its infrastructure, then they would not consider, bringing more operations here. FedEx said the same thing. Now, both of those are headed in Greenville. Right. So Greenville got busy on their infrastructure. And if you've been to Greenville lately, there's not a pothole on a road in Greenville. Because big business, they have that power, right? Well, there aren't very many big businesses in the 7th Congressional District. But it is sad. I was going to Myrtle Beach one night before all this, and I was riding down the side road, trying to get there fast. And the cones had already started going up because in January we had the most rainfall in that month in history, right? And so the cones were already going up. Because if I was going to go back that way, the roads were going to flood. So they had already, and you could already see it because it was raining. And so it shouldn't be a way of life for people in the 7th Congressional District just to accept that there are areas of flooding and nobody does anything. So what business is going to come and invest millions and billions of dollars into an area where they don't even know if they can get there or not because the roads are flooding? No one. No one is going to do that. I mean, you have neighborhoods and they're trying to do these buyouts now because of the flooding issue. Well, it's like a lady in her 70s told me one time. She said, you know, baby, because when you're in the 7th Congressional District, you're everybody's baby. Even if you're in your 40s, you're still everybody's baby. So I still really like it, you know. So she was like, baby, this is great that they're going to try to buy me out and move me out of this flood zone. But what they're going to give me for my home, I can't get another one. I've been in this house all my life. My husband and I, we struggled to pay for it. And they're going to give me $30,000, $40,000. I can't buy another home in the Horry County area for $30,000, $40,000. And so she wanted to move out of the flood zone, right? She really did. Because her husband was now deceased. But she couldn't afford to move out of this flood zone for what they were going to give her for her money. You know, for the value, what they said the value was. And I told her, you know, you're going to have to fight that. And she didn't have any money. And she didn't have the wherewithal to know how to fight that. So I tried to, you know, help her out and give her some answers for the ways of doing that. So we got to be fair. You got to be fair to people. And we got to be realistic when we're talking about moving people out. And you know, absolutely, you know, it's a hard situation, but we got to be fair to the people who live there. And we got to make sure that we're giving them an alternative where they can be safe. You know, we can't throw them out on the street and then say, here's $30,000, $40,000. That's the price of a car in 2020, not the price of a new home in 2020. So, you know, we have to do better. And we have to make sure that when we're offering solutions, that they're real solutions and not just something we can go and say, oh, yeah, we did that.
What are the other flood zones that you're looking at right now?
Well, you know, what do you mean?
You talk about the flood zones. What other ones are you looking at? What ones are you concerned about right now?
Well, there are several in Congressional District 7. You know, you have flood zones in Georgetown. Or you have a lot of flood zones in Georgetown. You have flood zones in Conway. So, you know, downtown Conway floods. You know, in the 501, there's only one major thoroughfare. The town is on this side. The major hospital is on the other side. So when it floods there, you have no access to the hospital because you can't get down the road. If you know, so you have flood zones in Florence. You have flood zones in Dillon. Anywhere, Terrells Bay, Aner. So anywhere there's a major river. So Churral. So if you're along that Great Petey River. That runs through Churral, Florence, Dillon, the area, you're going to have flooding. All the subsidiaries, you know, you're going to have flooding. And I think it was 3 years ago around Thanksgiving. Well, it was probably September. The river crested in the middle of the night. And so people literally were waking up in the middle of the night and trying to get on their roofs. To beat the flooding because, you know, it happened in the middle of the night and it was pretty horrible. So when I was going to Myrtle Beach at Thanksgiving, you could still see, so that happened in September, and going down number 9, you could still see it's Thanksgiving. Flooding, you know, that particular year, the flooding happened in September. And it's September, October, November, and people still had all of their belongings sitting on the side of the street waiting for trash pickup in November at Thanksgiving. And it was really sad because I hadn't gone down number 9 to Myrtle Beach in a while. You know, I usually go a different way. I'm in Florence, so I usually might hit 41 or something else. So, but it had been a long time, and it was really, you know, it reminded me a lot of Hurricane Katrina, where, you know, you saw everybody sit their belongings out and trying to rebuild those homes. And a lot of people still hadn't received FEMA money. A lot of people had still, their businesses went bankrupt during that time because they had done work and they still haven't received their FEMA payments. I know businesses in Charleston that went bankrupt that didn't receive their FEMA payments. And so a lot of those homes, those people did that work themselves because they just got tired of waiting on the government. That's become an issue. Our government we need to look at our government structures. We've spent so much time taking money out of government and taking money out to help average people to fund the war on terror or to give tax breaks to the wealthy. So now we're seeing that our government can't be effective in helping people when it needs to. These stimulus checks are a mess. Getting the $600 extra unemployment is a mess. You still have people who haven't received that. Read an article before I came here this morning when I first woke up about a woman who still hadn't received unemployment. And after major disasters, we have companies that are folding because they're not getting their payments from FEMA that they were supposed to get, or people haven't received their money to fix their homes from FEMA that they were supposed to get, and we kind of just push it under the rug and don't talk about it. But that in and of itself would improve our economy.
This discussion to be continued.
Okay, thank you, Quintin, so much.
Yeah, Melissa Watson, thank you for your time on Quintin's Close-Ups, and I hope to have you back later this
All
summer.
right, I would love to come back. Thank you.